Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie Weaver here in the Blue and Yellow Kitchen in San Diego, California with Microwave Boy under stay-at-home orders, and we're making your favorite dish today, Microwave Boy. What's that?
Woohoo!
Dirty rice.
Dirty rice.
Okay, so this is not actually real dirty rice. I just need to state that up front. Dirty rice is a southern dish, usually made with chicken livers and rice. This is not that. This is inspired by a version of dirty rice that I had years and years ago that I have played around with a bunch more times, but we call it dirty rice. It's kind of a paleo dirty rice. So we're using riced cauliflower in place of the actual rice. So this is a low carb dish. This one is migraine friendly if you skip the chicken sausage and you use green onions instead of regular onion.
This is the dish that made me skinny.
It's right. When Microwave Boy ended up going on kind of a functional medicine cleanse a couple years ago because his blood work numbers were not looking great, and he was actually pre-diabetic, which is not great. So this is one of the things that he ate a lot of. It's very plunky, right?
It's delicious as plunky, but it's the right balance of what you need.
Right.
And all you have to do, well, all the Microwave Boy has to do is heat it up.
That's right.
2 thumbs up.
A little bit more work for S. Weaver MPH over here. So what I'm doing, so this is a very slippery cutting board, so I'm usually a little bit quicker with this, but what I did was I cross-cut the onion three times, then I cross-cut it this way, and now that gives you diced onion. You know, I'm not super picky. I don't work in a commercial kitchen, so my dicing is, you know, it's imperfect, but it works really well. I'm just being really, really careful because this is a pretty cutting board for all of y'all, but it's very slippery, so I'm always worried I'm going to cut myself on it. So then there's always usually a few strays out of this process that I have to finish cross-cutting. Daisy just came in for a different toy. So I have a pretty large Dutch oven on it's been on the stove on medium, not quite medium high, just a slightly under medium high. And I just throw some olive oil in there, swirl it around to cover the bottom, and then I'm going to get my onion in there, lickety split. So when you're moving stuff off a cutting board, you want to use the flat side of the knife, not the sharp side, so you don't dull the blade. And stand back because the pan's hot, so therefore the oil's hot. Alright. And that's the first step. Now, the other ingredients are celery, some kind of bell pepper, the cauliflower rice. I always also like to add kale to this dish, although that's not Microwave Boy's favorite, so I stopped adding it for him. But if I make it like where I know I'm going to eat a lot of it, I might throw the kale in there, or spinach. So what's nice is it's a one-pot meal with 4 to 5 vegetables. So you're just getting a lot of varied nutrition, which is something I like, and I love a one-pot meal. This is also the dish that I use up those inner leaves of the celery heart, where you're getting that stronger celery flavor. It works really well in this dish. And if you have anybody who doesn't like tomato, who might that be in this kitchen, Microwave Boy? Might that be you?
Hands up.
Not a fan of tomato. So this is, you know, in the sort of realm of a chili, but there's no tomato in it. So this is partly why, another reason why he really likes it.
Yeah, you could throw an egg on top of it, have it as a breakfast side.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah. So very versatile. This is usually a pretty big pot, and so half of it will go in the freezer, and then half goes in the fridge, and then he'll eat off of that for, you know, a good week with other food. So what I like about this too, and the reason that I didn't do all the prep in advance, is that this is one of those dishes where once you get started, you can finish the prep as you're going. And I also really like that. So I don't necessarily do mise en place with this. I just kind of get started and throw stuff in. So the other ingredients are ground turkey. So we eat more poultry than red meat. And then I've got a spicy Italian chicken sausage from Trader Joe's. That's a little bit on the salty side, so we only use it for flavoring. And so basically there's no other salt that goes in this dish because that's
It's
plenty.
nice to have a variety of
salt.
not just one meat in there.
Yeah, and it just has different textural elements. So I'm going to hold off on the pepper is a little delicate, so I'm going to hold off putting that in. What I'm waiting for, let's stir this. I just want these vegetables to be getting a little bit golden, the onions to be a little bit translucent. We'll show you that in a minute. But next step is I'm just going to cut up my my sausage. So again, you would skip this if you're following my grain relief plan, but you could, this is still a teeny bit frozen, which is okay. But you could use the sausage recipe from my book as the addition if you wanted that sausagey flavor, which is really nice. I do have a homemade sausage recipe in the book. So, so what I'm doing is just pulling these out.
Is that a fake sausage or?
No, it's real sausage. It's just homemade, so there's no added salt. So it's a pork. I think it's. I can't remember if it's a turkey sausage or a pork sausage, but yeah. So if you want that sausage flavor, and then when I'm doing these, and it may not work today because they're still a little bit frozen. Sometimes these sausages you can pull the casing off, and if that's possible, sometimes they're like really melted on there and sometimes they're not. Ah, here we go. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. It just makes the texture a lot nicer. You could also use pre-cooked, or yeah, raw sausage. So you could buy the sausage links at the store, like I know the butcher counter at a lot of stores has those uncooked sausage links. You definitely want to pull the casing off of those and just crumble the meat in, and you cook the meat in the same step as the as the ground turkey. Okay, so I'm just doing this. I'm going to stir this again. Now this is all right now. This is all cooked meat, so I don't have to worry about my hands having touched anything yet. So let me show. Can I pick this up?
I'll come over there.
Okay, you're gonna come over. Good. That's easier. This is starting to get hot. So, yeah, so we're getting some browning. Don't want it to get too brown. We're starting to get kind of that translucent color is what I'm looking for.
Remind me what's in there again.
So this is just white or yellow onion and celery right now. That's all that's in there so far. Yeah, olive oil. Yeah, and what I'm going to do while you're here is I'm going to make a space for the meat. So just hang out there for a second, microwave boy. And I'm going to throw the raw uncooked meat, right? So this is my 1 pound package of ground turkey. Just I flip it right in there. Haven't touched it, which is helpful. And then I can grab, this is the one I like to use. Oops. This is what sometimes happens. The implements is they all get all a little bit too comfortable.
Getting to know each other.
Whereas I know, it's sometimes wonder that's why we end up with extra implements is they've been messing around while we're not watching. So I'm going to let that, now it is kind of frozen. What I want to do is brown it on that side. It is very frozen, more frozen than I was expecting. All right, so I'm going to just have to flip it as one thing in a couple minutes. So I'm going to let it cook and come back over here while that's cooking. And see that again, this is what I mentioned is I like, I don't have to do prep in advance on this recipe. Once I get the onion going, you know, it gets started, then I cut up the celery, then that goes in. Then I cut up the pepper and the sausage, and then I throw the turkey in there. And then once I flip over the turkey, most of this stuff's cut up. You see this is not behaving itself very well and pulling out some of the meat. But I do like the texture of it better when you've pulled off this casing. It just...
And that's because it's slightly frozen? Is that why, or?
Yeah, and sometimes it's just... Okay, see this... It just depends on the sausage. Sometimes you I don't know if you can see how translucent that is. That's the intestines. That's the casing. And you ideally just don't want to eat that. Not because there's anything wrong with it. That's what holds it together on a grill as a sausage. But when it's in a dish like this, it's just much nicer texturally to not have that little bit of, you know, whatever, I don't know what part of, it's not really meat. I don't even know what you would describe it as. It's not, maybe it's kind of cartilaginous, I guess. So it's just not the nicest texture. But again, like, and this one is not behaving itself at all. It's not pulling off well. You don't want to waste a lot of your sausage. So if you're in that situation, sometimes I find if I hold it down, I can pull it, like peel it back a little bit better. Just really depends on the sausage. Some of them are like, there's no way it'll come off. And you can kind of tell looking at the package whether it's one that will peel easily. It just kind of looks sort of loose. So I go with that if I can. This one is not behaving itself at all. Now since this is cooked, it's possible that this could be a treat for Miss Daisy May, who's walking around the kitchen. Not all at once.
She's waiting for gravity to happen.
Yeah, she's very patient. And, okay, so that's that. I'm gonna just wash my hands because I got a lot of stuff on right now. But no raw meat, just kind of sliminess. Okay, so I'm gonna flip this meat over, and because it's frozen, normally I cut it in half and I flip it, but I don't even think it's gonna, oh yeah, okay, I got it. It's just easier to flip if here, coming back, awesome, thank you.
Hello.
So, hello, coming back over, so I'm just gonna flip it so I can get some nice browning. And then if it's not frozen, it kind of falls apart if you try to flip the entire brick of it. And then you just wanna press it down once it's cooked a little bit more through. And I did pull this out last night to thaw in the fridge.
Press it?
I press it because I'm trying to get more surface area of meat without disturbing the meat too much and then therefore making it tough. So it's kind of this fine, you don't want to, once meat's been ground up, you don't want to mess around with it a lot because you don't want to make the texture tough. But what I tend to do at this point is just start breaking it across, and that way it won't be in too big of pieces as it's cooking. Here, because it is frozen, it's taking a little bit more effort to break it up. And then I might go that way as well, just to get it all nice and broken up. And then at this point, so this guy has raw meat on it, it's going in the sink. And this guy actually also had raw meat on it, so it's going in the sink. And now I can, as that's cooking, I'm going to finish cutting this up, and then everything else is going in there. So what I normally do is just slice these lengthwise. So they've been sliced in half lengthwise. Then I slice them all the way lengthwise, and these were in the freezer as well. You can see, like, I don't know if you can see the texture. So this one, the casing peeled off really nicely, and this one it did not. So it just looks a little bit rougher, but flavor-wise it's going to be perfectly fine. And
have I ever told you that I appreciate you?
He had no idea there were all these extra steps in this. Because he just walks in the kitchen and magically there's a pot of dirty rice made up. Right? That's fun.
Dirty rice elves have returned.
Dirty rice elves. Well, what's really nice though is I'll walk in the kitchen and all the dishes will be done. So, so we do things for each other. That's how it works here. We are a partnership, as you always like to say. All right, so.
Pandemic partners.
Pandemic partners, yeah. We've been through a lot, so at this point, nothing's.
This is nothing.
This is nothing. We're good. So, yeah, so this is all cut up. So what I'm going to do is, where did I hid that over there. All right. Now everything else can just go in the pan. So I'm going to do my same deal, flip my knife.
Whoa!
Oh, jeez.
Hello. little show notes.
We'll cut that out. We'll cut that out. Whoops. All right, so we've got our pepper going in, our 4 sausages that have been diced up, roughly diced, I'd say. And then we've got our riced cauliflower. So if you're not familiar with the riced cauliflower craze, it kind of came up a couple years ago, and ow, oops, pan's hot, so don't touch the pan. That was that reminder.
This is frozen?
Well, yeah, it can come frozen and it can come in the regular refrigerated vegetable aisle.
Can you just show me that package?
Yep, rice cauliflower.
Okay.
I prefer to buy it pre-made because it's really a mess to make. It's super easy to make. You just put it in the food processor, but it gets everywhere. And so it's one of those things where this is a very quick dish if I don't have to rice the cauliflower. So I just go ahead and buy it pre-riced. About a teaspoon or 2 of cumin. So I'm just going to use that up. Also determined that I use the word basically way too much, and I'm working on not doing that. And this is hatch chili powder, medium spice, I would say. And then usually a couple of plugs of some kind of hot sauce.
Plugs? Is that?
It's a very, very, descriptive
If I
cooking
use
term.
that word in Scrabble, will I get challenged or slow?
So then everything gets stirred up, and then it just cooks for 30 minutes. So that's what I make probably once every, I'd say 2 weeks these days. Used to be more like once a week. Oh, the rice cauliflower I was saying was kind of started with the paleo folks, the CrossFit paleo folks who got into the really low carb lifestyle. And, so they made cauliflower crust pizza, so they tend to be grain free, so they're not eating rice. So this is considered, well, it's described as a rice substitute. It's not rice. But it is a really nice vegetable, and texturally it's really nice, and it does make a lovely low carb dish. I also really like that this is very colorful, so we're getting some rainbow action there with the green and the white and the whatever bell pepper color you've got. So then I'm going to just bring this to kind of a boil, not quite a boil, nice simmer. You want it bubbling. I usually leave the lid off because the vegetables release a lot of liquid, and I don't want it to be soupy. My great boy also does not really care for soup, so he likes that stew texture. So 30 minutes and it'll be finished, and we will come back briefly at the end to show you what it looks like all done. So we'll see you in a minute. 30 minutes later, let's take a look at our faux dirty rice. So I'm going to bring it over so you can see it up and close and personal there. So you can see the yellow bell pepper, you can see the chunks of sausage. I added spinach at the very end and just stirred it in, put a lid on it for 4 or 5 minutes to get it to wilt. And then you've got your cauliflower rice in there, your onion, and your celery. And then, of course, the spices. So I'm just going to take a little taste. I think that will be Microwave Boy approved. You can always add more hot sauce. So what's nice about this is that you can add hot sauce at the table, you can add salt and pepper at the table. So if you've got people at different spice levels, like Microwave Boy is much spicier than I am, so he can adjust it to his liking. So you'll see the link in the comments on the Facebook video. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you need to hop over to Facebook to get the link to the recipe. Stephanie Weaver MPH on Facebook, and I'm S Weaver MPH on all other platforms. My migraine folks, this is migraine friendly. If you swap 2 bunches of green onions for the onion, everything else is, and skip the sausage, or use the sausage from my book, The Migraine Relief Plan. We'll look forward to seeing you all again soon. Stay safe, wear a mask when you're outside, be careful of others, and we hope we all get through this together. Bye.